Hey, good morning, everyone, or afternoon if you're on the East Coast. I'm Lauren Rilling. Welcome to another episode of Simple Business Stewardship. And I am joined today by Murray Johns. He is an incredible business coach who has had so much experience running a business of his own in Tennessee before, fortunately for all of us Coloradans, he moved to Colorado a few years back and now coaches other business owners on their business growth and development. Murray, thank you so much for being here today. How's it going?
It is going great, Lauren. Thank you for the invitation, and I am happy to be in Colorado. We absolutely love it here. We've been here
That
for 4 years now.
for 4 years. That is great. Well, we're glad you're here. Uh, so that you guys know, the way that Murray and I met was through LinkedIn. And it just so happened that we lived just one town apart. And so we thought, wow, we can be friends in real life. We can get together and have a real life conversation. And so that's always fun when, someone you meet on LinkedIn who's in a similar profession, who has, similar interests and expertise, and you happen to live in the same area. So that was really fun. And I know that you're in for a real treat today because every time I have a conversation with Murray, he just has so much wisdom and knowledge and insight to share. He's very generous with his time, his resources, his knowledge, his experience. And so I know you're going to be blessed by today's conversation. Murray, let's dive into this. I would love for you to just share with everyone about your story, about how you, about your professional journey and how you ended up as a business coach.
Good. Thank you. And thanks for such complimentary words, Lauren. That's really generous and kind of you to say that. I'm grateful as well for the professional relationship and friendship that we've struck up, given that we're just a few minutes apart from each other in adjoining towns. It really is nice to have that face-to-face connection. I'm grateful to be here today, and I hope that the things I have to say will strike a chord with somebody, that even just one thing, if they can walk away with one thing that makes a difference in their leadership or in their business ownership experience and how they are going about living through that experience. So I'll give a little bit of background. Academically, I studied mechanical engineering and did my graduate work at Purdue University. And following mechanical engineering, I decided, I'd like to be a bit more well-rounded, and went back and got a business degree also at Purdue. And that launched a career at Hewlett-Packard for a few years. And then I was invited to join a friend of mine as a partner in a small engineering company in Nashville, Tennessee, very niche engineering company. Only the Department of Defense knew about us, I think, and a few obscure other semiconductor companies. But that was a really neat opportunity to take engineering and my business degree and work on business development, technology, commercialization. And after about 8.5 years of that experience, I said, I really enjoy the technical world, but I really enjoy people a lot more. And so I looked at my background, work experience, academic experience, personal life experiences, and really settled on a new opportunity that would place me in a position where I could interact with people live. This was much before Zoom was a common day occurrence. This was back in 2008, 2009. And I started a business in the area of commercial signs and graphics. We did business to business work, predominantly in the Middle Tennessee area, but a lot of national work as well. And that fine-tuned some skills in problem solving, management, customer service, and all that you can imagine that goes with a small business. We moved to Colorado in 2018 for family health considerations, and I continued to commute back and forth to Tennessee, managing the business remotely. And then finally last year, after 3 years of commuting long distance, we decided it's probably the right thing for us to do, to make a pivot and do something different for our family's sake. So we sold that company to some wonderful people in the Nashville, Tennessee area who are continuing the good work doing there. Shortly before I sold my company, I had been in conversations with a business coach. And honestly, I hadn't really been exposed to the coaching world before. And after I sold the company, I circled back to him and said, I would really like to learn more about this, because I think that 20 plus years of small business experience and just life experiences have placed me in a position where I can help other people, other business owners, reflecting on my own personal business experience, life experience living through as a family, living through what it's like to be a small business owner. And so that's been a real passion of mine. It's very fulfilling to work with other business owners, business leaders, to talk not only about the mechanics and the operations and the finances of their business, but really about them as human beings, and acknowledging that you are a holistic 360-degree person who's got all this weight on your shoulders, and you probably often feel overwhelmed, maybe alone, maybe stuck, because those are all feelings that I had as a business owner. And so now I'm grateful to have the opportunity through my local connections, as well as still connections that I have across the nation, to work with people and help them improve their businesses, but also their quality of life as a business owner.
Mm. And
That
that's something.
encapsulates in just a few minutes what you might have been looking for, Lauren.
Yeah, that's perfect. Something that is something I really appreciate about you, Marie, is that you've really walked the walk. You can truly empathize with what people are going through on a very personal level. And you have that experience of, look, I've
Mhm.
walked through this before. And something that I don't know if everyone would necessarily catch on the significance, I just want to point this out, is that you actually sold your business. You didn't have to shut it down. You built something that was outside of yourself and your own operations, to where you could hand it off profitably, and
Mhm.
someone saw value in that, because they knew that if they purchased your business, that they would be able to provide an income and a profitable, ongoing system for themselves to live off of. So
Right.
that is a really big deal. Most small businesses are not saleable. Like, they're
Mhm.
missing key components that make it valuable enough to actually sell. So, and a lot
Absolutely
of the
right.
time that has to do with primarily profitability, and and then the systems that you put in place so that you can
Mhm.
actually make it turnkey, hand it off to someone else. So that alone really is a testament to your success, and that you really know what you're talking about. So I just want you guys to know that you're getting some real, like, everything that Murray's going to share today. This is the real stuff. This is the stuff that it's not theoretical, it's very practical and applicable. So
Well, thank you.
um
I should
yeah.
add as well, as a caveat, that some of the things I'll share today are influenced by my background, but it's also because I've had a chance, a year and a half now, to have stepped away from that overwhelming, all consuming experience, to be able to let my mind open up and understand things more clearly. As I've studied, how can I help other business owners? I've learned things that, boy, I wish that I had met Murray Johns a decade ago, who could have talked to me about, there's a better way to do this. There's a smarter way to do this. So, in full disclosure, I did not excel in all of the things that we might be touching on today. These are things that, in the spirit of continuous improvement, we are all trying to continue to learn and get better at what we do. And so these are things now that I can look back with the foundation of my own business experience to say, here are mistakes that I made, here are things I would have done differently, and here's really a good path forward, a way to implement this that will make a big difference, so that you don't have to experience some of the pain points that I went through.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, I mean, I think that anytime we feel like we've arrived, we have nothing left to learn,
True.
then we really can't be valuable to other people. So I love how you've taken that experience and you've said, okay, what are the successes, but also the failures, or the things that I wish I had done better, and then how do we continuously grow and improve, and then use that to bless other people and to help them along in their journeys. I think that is the approach that we have to take as coaches, if we want to not only be successful as coaches, but really our success as coaches is is measured by the success of our clients, right? So it's all about whatever we need to do to further our knowledge, our expertise, our ability to help and serve. You guys, you can see why I adore and admire Murray so much. So
Well,
let's
thank
dive
you,
into
Lauren.
this, because I know everyone is dying to know. The title of this is Double Your Profits with 6 Small Changes in Your Business. And I saw that at least one person gave, the little curious emoji reaction, which I love. I love that. I'm like, I don't know if we have skepticism, or like, I want to know more about that.
Sure.
But this is, it's amazing how small changes really do mathematically
Mhm.
add up to added bottom line profit, which I think at the end of the day, that's what every business owner is looking for. So, can you get us started with the first one, or if you want to go in a different direction and kind of give an overall picture, that's fine. But I know that everyone's dying to know, what are the 6 things. So
Sure. Well,
have
I
at
need
it.
to I need to acknowledge too, there are dozens of ways in which we can make small impacts. I just happen to choose 6 because mathematically we can demonstrate that if 6 and it's a certain percentage of impact on our revenue, that can double profits given a certain net profit margin in a business. And I'll explain the details behind that assumption. So there are lots of different ways in which we can impact our businesses, whether it's leadership or it's process development, it's optimization of workflow and operations, lots of different ways. I'll focus today predominantly on marketing, a little bit of pricing, things that we hear more often. They're pretty easy to implement, low cost, no cost. So I hope that everyone will walk away today thinking of the 6 and at least thinking there are 1 or 2 of those I know I can do right away. And then, if somebody wants to talk with you or me more about other ways that they can impact their business, by all means, let's have a conversation, because there are many ways to do that. I just wanted to focus on 6, and it will
Yeah.
mathematically show. I don't think I have the ability to show my screen, but I'll at least lay the details of a scenario, a simulation that we can run through.
Perfect. Yeah, there's it's not a limitation to say these are the only 6 ways you can improve your business's profitability. But I love you're focusing on things that are sort of the low hanging fruit, or okay, if we take a look at these, you can most likely find at least 1, 2, potentially more, though, where you can implement this right away and see some immediate results, or at least not have to put money into, well, if you want to be more profitable, you have to spend even more money first. That's
Right.
often a conundrum, and we want to find the margin where we can before we reinvest all the profit. We never want to reinvest all the profits into the business growth, but this is the most strategic way, I think, to do it. So what is the first one?
Good. But let me say too, this notion of being able to double your profits depends on one assumption, and that is that it's a financial assumption. The scenario that I've worked together has that your cost of goods sold, well, let me back up. Your gross profit margin is running at 50%, your net profit margin at 20%.
Mm-hmm.
So with those in mind, I can mathematically show that 6 small changes will lead to doubling your profits. Obviously, if your gross and net profit margins are different than that, it may take fewer changes or smaller impacts, or it may take more. But the whole notion that a few small changes can double or even more multiply your profit is very easy to demonstrate mathematically. Now we just have to implement these small changes. Let me focus on the first one. One that I think is real key and critical, and it has to do with the marketing message that we are putting out to the whole world. And so often, I love the phrase, when you confuse, you lose. And if we are confusing the marketplace by our message, we're going to lose. We're not going to have the opportunity to gain as much traction in our sales. But if we can unify as a team, have a very clear marketing message that states clearly, this is the problem we solve, this is the solution that we have for that, and this is the success that our clients experience by purchasing and using our products or services. That formula of problem, solution, success, with clarity and then consistency across the board, whether that's our website, our social media channels, everyone on our team, if we're all using the same marketing message and we've got it dialed in to where it's very clear, that in and of itself will have a great impact. And so you'll hear me ask at the end of each of these, Lauren, whether you choose to respond or not, we'll just let the audience ponder upon this. I will ask the question, if you can dial in your marketing message so clearly that people listen to it and say, oh, that is the problem that I have, and you have a solution for that, and that's how I'm going to feel, or that's what my life will be like after I use your product or service, is it too much of a stretch to assume that you could increase your sales by 5%?
Mm-hmm.
5% is a pretty small number. Could you do 5%? So I'll let the audience think about that. That's my first point. The first suggestion I have. I teach workshops about all of these in more detail, but we'll just have to touch on the highlights of each of these today in the
We'll
time
do
we
the
have.
highlights today, and then they can get in touch with you if they want, more of a deep dive into one of those.
Yeah, perfect. All right, so let's assume you've walked into McDonald's. This is point number 2, change number 2. You've walked into McDonald's. You've ordered that meal. It's got a sandwich. It's probably got a drink and fries. What's one of the first questions you often hear, Lauren, before finishing the transaction? What do they ask you? Would you like to
Would you like to upgrade your order, or what is it at McDonald's? Supersize?
supersize? Yeah.
Supersize.
Would you like to supersize that? And if you say
Yes.
yes or no, then they might also ask, would you like to add an apple pie? I don't know what they call their apple treats, but would you like to add an apple pie to that? So both of those are examples of a situation where a fast food chain is capitalizing on the opportunity to upsell their product offering and to cross-sell. They're offering a complementary product. Because sure, I like dessert. I'd like to have dessert after the end of my meal. Every business can take a look at their product and service portfolio and think, what are the ways in which we can create an upsell opportunity? If it's a SaaS company, maybe that's they take their standard software package and they say, what are additional features we could add at a different price point as an upsell for our customers to consider? Is that the basic and then the pro and the premium? You've got these opportunities for people to select different categories, upsells. They might also say, hey, in addition to that, would you like training on this new software package? There's a cross sell of a complementary product. I think too about Amazon. Many of us purchase things on Amazon. And if you go, as you're getting ready to check out or as you're looking at an item, you might remember that they often use the words and they show pictures of other products that say frequently bought with.
Yes.
Whether that's a sweater and they're showing a pair of pants, or it's a tech gadget and it's a case for that tech gadget, frequently bought with. The data that I've read suggests that 35% of Amazon's revenue comes from those cross-sell opportunities that they create. 35%.
Wow.
So given again the opportunity to consider your product portfolio, service portfolio, is it out of the question to assume that you could increase your sales by 5% by creating some upsell and cross-sell opportunities? I'll let that hang in the ether for people to ponder upon.
Well,
Unless you
and
have a question there.
I want to add to that too, that when
Please.
you are upselling or cross-selling, you are making more revenue with the same customer. You're not
Yep.
having to, so your customer acquisition, you don't have to try to get the same number of customers through the door. The value per customer is going up, and that is more directly profitable than if you made the same amount of revenue but with more customers. So that
Right.
is a great
Customer
way.
acquisition costs are lower.
Yeah.
Marketing costs are lower. Average order size is greater. Excellent point, Lauren. Excellent point.
Yeah, so I love that. And then also for people who are thinking like, I'm already overwhelmed with my workload as it is, how can I possibly add more? Just if you're like a service-based provider and you're thinking, man, I charge this much and I do this, I do this whole package of services for my clients and I feel that scope creep, or I don't know how I could possibly add on more. This is actually a great opportunity to see where you might more clearly define your services and clearly define this is what's included, and then this is what's an upsell or cross-sell opportunity. Not for the sake of nickel and diming your clients or customers, but just to really demonstrate the value. And you can add this or you don't have to, but that can help free up some time, but also generate better profits.
Great points. I love too the fact that you identified that these upsell and cross-sell opportunities have value. We definitely don't want to just try to manipulate a situation because data suggests that we can. We want to be ethical. We want to definitely add value with every opportunity that we have to provide a greater package or provide a complementary feature. Thank you for adding that in. Value.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a win-win. It's a win for the customer. It's a win for the business.
Yes. Great.
Awesome. What is the next one?
Related to upsells and cross-sells is the whole notion of a downsell option. Let's say the customer comes to you and they just either don't have the expenses, they don't have the budget, or don't want to spend as much money on your standard product offering. Do you have a downsell option, something that is perhaps a reduced quantity, reduced size, reduced feature set that you can still offer for the sake of being able to engage with that client? Start with a single financial transaction, and that downsell opportunity gives you the opportunity for nurturing that relationship over time and perhaps being able to offer them more products and services in the future. So one of the examples that I have for that, I happened to look once online to see how much it would cost to order a dozen roses, and my wallet was shocked at the cost of a dozen roses. In part, I think because my wife has always told me, don't waste your money on roses, get something else. So let's assume this scenario. Somebody walks into a florist and they're looking for that bouquet of a dozen roses, and they see how much they can cost, and they say, whoa, that's not for me. I guess I'll go buy something else. And on their way out the door, the florist happens to notice them and catches them and says, hey, is there something else we could offer to you? And sure enough, maybe that's a bundle of alstroemeria and tulips or something for half the price of the roses. And so the florist gets the opportunity to capture that additional revenue that was about to walk out the door by offering a downsell, something other than what they were looking for initially. Now think about the smart florist would also say at that point, if you'd like, we could include a vase for an extra X number of dollars. There's a cross sell happening there. Mm-hmm. So there's an opportunity just to, a simple example of the florist and the flowers as a downsell. So I would encourage everybody listening as well to think about, what options do I have? Is there a reduced quantity or a reduced feature set that I can offer as a downsell that will still allow me the privilege of transacting with this client, earning their trust, and hopefully in the future moving them up to the more standard offering or maybe even a more premium offering than what they were about to walk away from.
I love that example. That really helps to crystallize the principle, because I find that can help correct a big mistake that a lot of entrepreneurs make, which is just to say, oh man, I guess I just need to lower my prices. Mm-hmm. And right. That creates an untenable situation for the business owner. If you walk in, or you have a customer walk in and they're shocked that a dozen roses is $60, then they're not the customer who's going to buy roses for $60 on a regular basis, right? But if you have something else where, we have, a mixed bouquet and it's $20, and then you can upgrade with the vase, like you in your example, and it's $30. Well, wow, I was going to take
what I was about to pay.
I wasn't going to go to another florist shop and try to find another bouquet of roses. I was just going to go buy something different at a different store, right? So like you said, you still get the privilege of having that transaction with that customer, and that customer goes, wow, you can create such a great experience for them by serving their need. And then, they're more likely to become a repeat customer. Maybe they will think next time, well, maybe next time I will spring for the dozen roses, but I got to be a little more prepared, to spend the money, right? So it gives you an opportunity for that repeat business as well. Of course, again, you're reducing that customer acquisition cost. You're providing value to the customer, and this is such a better option than to just lower your prices or to say we'll take it or leave it.
So glad you brought that into the conversation, Lauren. That's a perfect thing to add in, because we do not want to just discount for the sake of getting the sale. Mm-hmm. Being able to have a downsell option is so much more valuable. And think about the contrast of letting that opportunity walk out the door without any flowers at all versus now you're capturing some portion of that. I'll ask the audience the question, could you, by developing some downsell options, foreseeably see increasing your sales revenue by 5%?
So right now we're just talking about 5%, 5% better results, 5% revenue with marketing, which I love, because I think when we are talking about marketing, everyone feels like this is marketing. Like we have to see like 400 times for, improvement, or it's not worth it. 5%, that's so small. That's a small improvement to get 5% better, right? Same thing with creating a cross sell. If Amazon can do it at 35%, yeah, sure, they're Amazon, whatever. But 5% is a pretty good goal. And you can track that, you can measure that. People buying the upsell and the cross sell or the downsell, you can actually measure this. So track this and measure this as you go along to see what's working and what you might want to make adjustments to. Okay, so far we've got those. We're halfway through. We've got 3 changes, and so far we've added 5% in each of these 3
5%
ways.
each time.
All right, and
Yep.
then we'll put it all together with the math. Like, how is 5% gonna equal double my profit with 6 changes? This doesn't seem to work, Murray. But you stick around because we're gonna show you how the math works on this. So.
Stick around.
Yes, stick
I would
around.
like
So
to add, just add
yeah.
in, think about 5% from 2 other perspectives. If you do go and you pay $10 for a meal, and that's the price, $10, and next month you go in and now it's $10.50, would you walk out because it's now 5% more expensive? I doubt it. I doubt many people would stop. If you typically get 100 leads in a month, can you foreseeably see yourself making a few changes, such as with the marketing message that I referred to at the beginning, and maybe get 5 more leads each month, 105 now? Hopefully, those 2 examples will just help the audience recognize that 5% is a really small amount, and it doesn't take a lot to push us over that additional increment. So let me share another idea: product and service bundling. Sometimes we'll walk in. Well, there are several examples of bundling that we could talk about. You go into the store and they've got shampoo and conditioner. It's a bundle. You go onto your favorite travel site and you can get air, hotel, car, vacation, all wrapped up in one bundle. Think about when you shop online on Amazon, for example. Anyone can do this. Go look for a specific digital camera and then look at the options that are offered in addition to just buying the camera. You'll see all kinds of bundles that include a case, an extra lens, lens wipes, a tripod, a shoulder strap, whatever else a camera buff might need. They have these bundles that are so much more attractive from the pricing perspective as compared to adding up all those individual purchases together. So the whole concept of bundling is going back to what you had said earlier, Lauren. If we can offer a very valuable bundle to a customer, it increases the average order price. It lowers our overall cost of customer acquisition because that same customer is now buying more. We're not having to rely on getting a second customer to help us get up to that revenue. Bundling is a neat way as well for companies to accomplish a few different things. If they have older excess inventory that they need to get rid of or need to move, bundle it in. This happened to me recently when I was going to buy a Life is Good t-shirt, a printed t-shirt for my wife. And right at the moment of checkout, it said, "Oh, would you like to add one more at 50% off?" Maybe that was, I don't know if that was an older piece of inventory that they were trying to move or just another way of upselling the order, but it was a little bit of a bundle package that they were offering to me. Let's see. Having bundles also can remove price as a comparison. So if you and I have competing stores, Lauren, and you're selling the bottle of shampoo and I'm selling the bottle of shampoo, but now suddenly I offer a bundle that includes a loofah and a bottle of conditioner. Even though my price is higher than yours, people might look at that bundle and say, "Oh, that's not the same as just buying a bottle of shampoo from Lauren. I can get this bundle from Murray." And it has removed price as a comparison factor. So the fact that your bottle of shampoo might have been 25 cents less than mine, if that were the only differentiating factor, people would say, "I'm going to buy from a Lauren store." But now that I've got this bundle that you don't offer, I'm able to attract more people who are looking for that kind of value-added bundle. And the individual price of the shampoo bottle is now much less relevant.
Yeah, because it's not an apples to apples comparison. It's really, I get more value out of this. I mean, this all comes back to creating more value for the customer is what
Right.
it is boiling down to. But when you bundle things, don't think about bundling like your internet and cable. Don't think about the headache of don't do things like that, right? Because that's just frustrating. But when you think about bundling like shampoo and conditioner, oh, and we throw in this extra, little knickknack, that creates a lot more value for the customer. And, maybe your profit, maybe you lose 10 cents on the loofah, but because people are buying more from you than they are from the competitor, and your profit margins are still what they need to be to to support that. It's not like you're losing money by doing this. It's still profitable. It can be worth it because the client is going to say, oh, I mean, we make these decisions all the time, right? This is common sense, but it just helps us to put our minds in the mindset of being the customer on the other side, where they look at that bundle and say, wow, I know I'm going to spend more. I didn't really need a bottle of conditioner, and I don't really need a loofah, but I guess it would be good to have because I'll need it eventually. And so I'd rather have the convenience of buying it now. And overall, I'm going to pay less than if I just bought the shampoo today. So that's sort of how people think. And if you can capitalize on that, again, win for you, win for the customer.
Yes, and I recognize we're using consumer conversation here about a lot
Yeah.
of consumer products. These are all like the SaaS company example we mentioned before. The principles are applicable whether it's
Yeah.
B2B or B2C. It's
Yeah.
just the consumer products are so easy for us to talk about in our everyday experience, especially with Amazon.
Yes. And at the end of the day, every business really is B2C. Just because your customer is a business, it's still people making the decision. It's still people who need to see the value in what they're buying, and they're buying for the outcomes that you're providing to them. So
Yeah,
I
well
totally
said.
agree with you. Still, principles still apply. Obviously, it's really easy to make an example out of something tangible like shampoo and conditioner, but you can still find a way to apply that in your own business, no matter what it is that you're selling.
Yep, I totally agree. Thank you for that. So I'll ask that rhetorical question again. As you think about bundling options for your products and services, do you see the opportunity to increase your sales by 5%? I would venture that yes, we could. So number 5 has to do with the whole concept of the customer journey. Lauren, what percent, you might know this piece of data, so it may not be as
We'll see. We'll
shell
see.
shocking. What percent of buyers do you think are ready to buy now?
Ooh, that is a good question. Hmm. I mean, it definitely is going to depend on, well, again, where are they at in that process, right? Did they come
Mhm.
to you, or are you approaching them? I don't have like an actual research back statistic. I'll give you my best guess.
Go
My
for it.
best guess would be like 10%, maybe 20% in a really good industry. I bet that not I would say not the majority.
Agreed. Yep. And it's typically less than 5%. Fewer than
Okay,
5%
less than
are what we
5%.
would call now buyers. And so are those the only people that we're going to try to sell to? Really,
Mm.
realistically, we shouldn't. We should capture them with some direct call to actions, buy now, call now, whatever it is that'll help them purchase as quickly as possible. But what about that other 95%? How do
Mhm.
we help nurture them along the customer journey from being a future buyer to becoming a now buyer? And
Mm.
there are many ways to do this, and all of us have experienced this as consumers, where we go to a website and we see maybe a website where we're interested in purchasing a product or service, and maybe we're not quite ready. We're part of that 95%. But oftentimes the company will have wisely prepared for us a low risk offer that, in exchange for an email address, they'll send us an idea guide, a
Mhm.
downloadable white paper, videos showing customers using the product or service, happy in the end with the results, customer testimonials, tips on how to use, problems to avoid, all kinds of different things to download in exchange for our email address. So there's that initial what I'll call a transitional call to action, where it's a soft, low risk. Just give me your email address. I'd be happy to give you this high value piece of content. Now, the business has the opportunity to nurture that customer over the course of time through content marketing, through a drip campaign, continuing to send them high value information on a periodic basis. Another interesting data point in marketing is that it can take at least 8 touch points before a customer is ready to buy. And if we only follow up once, twice, and statistically, marketing data suggests that 44% of salespeople only follow up once or twice, and so they've really lost their opportunity there.
Mm.
But if we will continue through automation, using automation to continue to contact them over time, providing value, we always want it to be valuable information, not salesy, not self-promotional, but hey, this is a helpful piece of information for you. Over time, we're moving people along that customer journey towards becoming a now buyer, where we have gained trust in the relationship. They've seen more examples. I had a great experience purchasing a mattress many months ago. I did just that. I went to a site that compared all kinds, and then I kind of settled in on one mattress vendor and downloaded something. I don't remember now what, but over the course of the next few weeks, I got all kinds of really good content that talked to me about the mattress, about the warranty, customer videos and testimonials, an offer for some free stuff. It was a bundling type of offer. They were throwing in some sheets and pillows along with the mattress. They had cross-sell options in there for a frame and other products. And eventually they moved me down that customer path to where I became a now buyer, and I clicked buy now, and now I'm sleeping on a nice new mattress. So I
Nice.
was the embodiment of the future buyer that they nurtured right along. So for the audience, I would ask you again, can you envision creating a high value, downloadable, low risk offer like an idea guide or a white paper of some kind, something useful to your client base that would nurture them along? And with automation, using a drip campaign, can you see that adding at least 5% to your sales over the course of a year?
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that one, Lauren?
Yeah, no, so many ideas are coming up. Like you being the customer and you're savvy about these things, so you knew exactly what they were doing, but you still found value in that content and you went from being a not yet buyer to a now buyer. You were in the market for a mattress, but it could have gone a different way if maybe one of the other companies that you had looked at had offered something of value and had sent you some emails
Mhm.
and showed you, how they'll bundle in, the sheets and whatever. You could have been persuaded to buy from a different company. Now, you were definitely already in the market for that mattress, so it was really a matter of selecting where am I going to buy this from.
Mhm.
Um, but I think to your point that so many of us just think, is this going to be a customer or not? Not We don't think about leading people down a path where so this is just a great takeaway. I think that a good mindset shift is that look at if the person, I don't like to use the word targeting, but it's just a marketing term because it feels like predatory. I don't like that word. But if you know that there is a group or an individual, or you see a market and you go, man, why are my sales so low? Don't be so quick to jump to conclusions that it's you or that your service isn't good or your price is too high. Don't
Right.
start doing that to yourself when you haven't actually done the work of leading that 95% through a
Mhm.
journey. Your marketing campaign really will give you feedback and your customers will give you feedback. So if your clients are getting the outcomes, the results that they're looking for, whether that's with a product or a service, then be confident in that and say, okay, I need to better cultivate that relationship with those people who aren't yet there. They're on a journey, they're just at a different place in the journey. And I think that can, and knowing just things like you have to talk to people, whether that is actually have conversations or through an email marketing campaign, whatever that's going to look like for your business. You have to do that at least 8 times before you say this isn't working. So I think having just some real concrete facts around these things is very empowering and very helpful, because it isn't easy to influence people who are not yet buyers into the now buyers. But I think that's also very encouraging that there's so much more opportunity if we know what steps to take.
Yeah, good commentary. It's helpful to stay top of mind by continuing that drip campaign. If you can continue
Yeah,
it beyond 8 touch points, I would recommend you do.
absolutely. Can I ask you a follow-up question about that? I'm
Absolutely.
curious because there's like the email marketing, you have your lead magnet or valuable content, whatever you want to call it. And I've had some conversations about this, and there's so many different viewpoints, and maybe it depends on your industry, maybe it doesn't. But I've also been hearing that we're starting to move in more of a direction where it's not just about the number of touch points, but that email marketing in particular, you want to have email marketing, you want to have an email
Mhm.
system. You don't want to rely on social media because, as we all know, your social media content is not owned by you. Like once you put it out there on LinkedIn or Instagram or wherever, it belongs to the company, the platform. It doesn't belong to you. You don't own your
Right.
account, but you do have your email list. So
Yes.
that's a great thing to be building because that's going to be more effective, and you actually own that email list. So you're not like sort of at the mercy of various algorithms or your account and whatever. But I'm also wondering about just the value of more personalized messaging, more personalized touch points and experiences. That's obviously more time consuming. It takes more effort. Is it worth it though, or is it better, or do you really stick to automation when it comes to guiding your prospective customer?
I don't know that I'm the definitive end all person to answer that question, but I'll share my perspective on that.
Sure.
I think because some industries rely on single transactions. Maybe the company only offers a couple of products, and so the customer may buy once and may never need to go back and buy a webcam again, or might be years and years later that they have to purchase a single gadget again. But to your point about, well, let me back up. If everyone were to stop and analyze their sources of revenue and their customer database, Pareto's principle will suggest that about 80% of your revenue is coming from 20% of your customers. And so it's important for every business to stop and evaluate that, because if you have the opportunity to provide additional value or that personalized touch point to that 20%, by all means you should, because they are the ones who are providing the bulk of your revenue, and they're not the tire kickers, the price shoppers, the call every moment that something's wrong. Those are
Mm-hmm.
your good, solid customers that you want to maintain and grow. I was thinking too in your commentary about the email list. We developed in my sign company, we had thousands of email addresses that had come about through people inquiring, asking for a quote, or they had become customers in some way. And we would send out on a monthly basis a newsletter that talked about recent projects and things related to the sign industry. And almost every month without fail, somebody would reply to one of those. Sometimes they had purchased in the past, sometimes they hadn't, but they were looking for something usually unrelated to what the newsletter was about. But it helped us stay top of mind. And so
Mm-hmm.
they recognized that, oh, there's that thing in the inbox again from that sign company. Oh yeah, I do need that project. And so using that customer email list that is your company's asset is a huge principle. I'm glad that you brought that up, Lauren.
Yeah, absolutely. That staying top of mind is so important, and it's also just easy just because I've talked to so many entrepreneurs from so many different fields, as I know you have, Marie, that it's easy to almost take it personally when you're like, wait, I thought you were gonna, we were gonna do business, and then you're like, what happened? But life happens, I'm sure we've all done this where we're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna buy that thing, or I'm gonna sign up for this class or whatever. And then you're like, oh man, I was going to do that a year ago. And then life got busy and I kind of just forgot
Yeah.
about it. You know, you being the business owner, you have to lead that relationship. You cannot just wait and be passive and wait for people to come to you, or wait for people to initiate, or even wait for them to respond. So you've got to have a good system where you're following up, reaching out, consistently providing value, and whatever way that works for you. And it's going to be, I think there is some level of like industry specificity, right?
I
Um,
agree.
where it's not just like, oh, here's this out of the box marketing solution, marketing tactics. You just use my marketing tactic. If it worked for me, it'll work for you. This
Right.
is how I went from 0 to 7 figures in 8 months. Like, one, no, you
What
didn't. I
took you
bet
that
you
long?
lied. But two, yeah. But two, it's be very wary of those kind of promises for solutions, because if they're saying this is like a one size fits all solution, like, no, it's not. So that would be my caveat. So I appreciate the way you frame that, Murray, because you're talking about like creating value, like, those core principles that people can then take and apply in the most appropriate way for their unique business.
Good. Well said. I really appreciate you adding that in. You ready for number
Absolutely.
6?
Yes, you guys, we're at number 6. This is the last one, and then we're going to talk about how this all ties together, how this actually equals a double in profit. So yeah, let's hear number
All
6.
right. So number 6 is something that I hope every business has already responded to in this tough economic time. You have got to raise your prices. Your
Mm,
costs have gone up. Transportation costs, shipping costs, material costs. You have to reflect that in your pricing. And it's surprising to me as I talk with business owners how many, and I'm going to mention that surprising part because it's a funny thing that looks back at me. Surprising how many or how few have responded and changed their pricing to reflect their increase in
mhm.
cost. So every year, as a sign company owner, we would get notices from our suppliers that would say something along the lines of, 3M is going to increase their prices on these products this year. And I would say, okay, 3%, that's a small amount. We'll just absorb it. And how many times did I do that, eroding our profitability? Because this whole compounding effect, remember, we're talking about small 5% changes in each of these areas.
Yeah.
If your costs are also going up by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5%, they're having a similar detrimental impact to your bottom line that's larger than you anticipate. So
Hmm.
you have to compensate for those cost changes, including your materials, your labor, your overhead, and make sure that your pricing reflects that. But I'll go back to the hamburger example as well, the meal, not just the hamburger, a meal. If your $10 meal is now $10.50, well, you say, oh, I'm definitely not going to eat there anymore. I'm going to go somewhere else. Very few customers will respond that way. So, in addition to maintaining your prices to cover your costs, I encourage you to increase your prices by 5 to
Hmm.
10%. And you have to be careful. You have to look at your profit, pricing and profitability math and ask yourself the question, what impact will that have on my customer base? You may lose some, but mathematically we can go through an analysis that will show that, if you make your change, if you make a 5 to 10% price increase, you might lose 15, 20, 25% of your customers mathematically. But is that really going to happen? Typically it won't. So there's justification for us not to gouge. We're certainly not doing that, but we are always looking to add value as we are increasing our prices. And
Yeah.
so I hope that the audience hears me correctly on that. Don't just raise your prices for this. I mean, raise it to cover your costs increases, but also reflect the fact that you are, relative to your competitors, hopefully offering greater value in some way that you can measure and demonstrate. And you should feel entitled to raise your prices accordingly.
Hmm.
So that, I don't know if you have a comment on that, Lauren, before I talk about excuse me for that alarm, um, talk about how all that works together, but I could
Just
comment on those
just
6.
very briefly,
Please.
because this is the topic of a lot of conversations with my clients as well. And I would say it is easier to build this in as sort of an annual review. Look at what's happening to your own costs, know what's happening in your own OpEx budget and with your own company's numbers, so that if you need to make a price increase based on your costs, that's sort of separate from value. I would sort of separate that out. Then it's easier to do that incrementally, like once a year or so, as opposed to like looking at every 5 or 10 years and going, oh shoot, we got to raise our prices. Because what you don't want to do is you don't want to raise your prices of a meal from $10 to $15 overnight. And
Right.
then it's like, oh, well, now we might actually go somewhere else, or we might. not come here as often. But if it's very incremental as opposed to a big amount all of a sudden because you realize your profit margins are being squeezed too much, then that's a lot more sustainable, I think. And then I love your point about just always finding ways to increase value. If you're a restaurant owner, then, and again, this is applicable no matter what your industry is, but if you can put a little bit of thought and that little extra effort into training the servers on how to really go the extra mile to make that to make your diners feel so welcome and so appreciated.
Absolutely.
Well, you're creating an experience for them and it costs you absolutely nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So they're much more likely to go back to write a positive review, to bring, you know, to celebrate an occasion there, so those are ways that you can also just help create greater value that support price increases and make you more profitable. So I love what you said about raising your prices. It's absolutely critical. It's non-negotiable right now, but it should be a practice even if we're not in a hyperinflationary environment.
Perfect. I appreciate you adding that in. I know one of
Yeah,
the ways that you help your clients, especially, is not just on the revenue side, but you're also helping them on the cost side. We haven't talked
yeah.
about cost, but I would just encourage the audience, look back on your last 3 months of bank
Mhm,
statements, credit card statements, look for purchases that are not helping you to get or retain customers, and ask
mhm,
yourself, do I really need this? Because especially
mhm,
if it's some kind of um, periodic subscription type of basis that maybe you really don't need. Look for ways to decrease your cost structure.
mhm,
Interesting to note, every dollar that we reduce our costs, every dollar that we increase our prices, those dollars fall straight to the bottom line as profit. The other five that we talked about have to do with sales of more goods. And so
mhm,
let's say extra $100, if I've got, $50 gross profit margin, $50 goes into fulfilling that sale. So I may only get $50 added to my bottom line out of the 100. Where
mhm.
in contrast with the price increase, every dollar increase drops to the bottom line. Every dollar decrease in cost drops to the bottom line as a full dollar. So that's important to keep in mind. So
Yes.
if any of the audience wishes to meet with me to look at their particular scenario with their gross profit margin, net profit margin, their revenue, we'll find out, how many different impact areas you want to make, what percent of impact you need to make in each of those areas to double your profits. But in this scenario, with a 50% gross profit margin, 20% net profit margin, six changes of 5% that add to your sales, 5% impact here, 5% impact here, six times. Based on that gross profit margin and net profit margin assumptions, your profits will double. Just before we got on the line here, I put in the example of a $500,000 company with a 20% net profit margin. Their profits today would be $100,000. Simulating those six changes that we made, I was able to show an additional $98,000 over the course of a year. So I've gone from 100,000 to 198, and we'll round up and call that, within the noise of our changes, a
Yes.
doubling from 100
Yes.
to 200. So I'd be happy to run through that scenario with anybody and their particular situation. We can look at 30 or so different areas where we can make an impact. I just happen to choose those that are commonly understood from us as consumers because we experience it on a daily basis, and thought that those might be the most relevant to a quick discussion like this.
Absolutely. I think that's a perfect illustration. And really, those are not atypical numbers. For a
Mhm.
$500,000 company to have 20% net profitability, I want to see that net profit be even higher than that. And that's what I
Yep,
love to do is help people reach that greater net profitability. And so, yeah, these are not atypical numbers. And these are not unattainable. These are very doable things. That's what I love so much about this. This is not pie in the sky. This does not need to be the exception to the rule. This is very practical, very doable, and very achievable in most businesses. So
absolutely.
yeah, absolutely. Well, Murray, where can people get in touch with you and how can they connect with you?
I appreciate that. They can find me on the internet at growmybusiness.coach. My email address is murray@growmybusiness.coach. Murray is spelled Murray. And don't forget the .coach instead of the .com. There it
Oh,
is
yeah.
down on the bottom. Thank you very much. I'd be happy to talk with you whether you're in the greater Denver area or out in Timbuktu, wherever you might be. I do work with clients in all 4 time zones of the United States. And I'm grateful
Excellent.
for this opportunity to have met with you, Lauren, Mountain Time Zone, just up the road from me.
Yeah,
It's been a
mountain
real
we're both in Mountain Time
pleasure.
Zone, I love it. Well, Murray, thank you so much for being here today. This has been so insightful, and, yeah, I think, again, just look at those 6 areas of your business and see what is it just a small improvement that I can make? Could I make a 5% difference here, and then go from there. Maybe you'll find a 10% difference in some places, and maybe you'll
Yeah,
realize, you know what, we really are doing the very best we can in a couple of these other areas, and then feel great about that.
good.
So, again, if you guys want to get in touch with Murray or myself to talk about any of these things, just reach out. We are both here on LinkedIn. And have a great rest of your day, you guys. Thanks so much for being here today. We'll see you next time.
I agree. Thank you all. Thank you, Lauren.